What's going on YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai Wrestling 1 here, bringing you guys another video. Today I'm bringing you guys a video on Kishiryu Sentai Ryusoulger. And I did this video already, but I forgot to turn on the volume, so I'm doing it again. So let me just start off by saying this is for episodes 20 and 21. I've been meaning to do more videos lately, but I've just been busy with a lot of other things lately, so I just haven't had the time and really haven't thought about it. But there's a lot of things that I need to catch you guys up on if you're curious. Many new things are happening. Obviously, Ryusoulger is still going on, which is good. Kamen Rider Geo is almost over, which means I will very soon start reviewing Kamen Rider 01. I kind of stopped on that about halfway through the show, for those that may remember. I'm definitely going to be reviewing 01 because I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be a very interesting season. I definitely want to review it. It's also the first Reiwa era season, so that's another reason why I'm excited about it, because it will be very interesting to see how they do things differently and how things are kept the same as well, and what things will be introduced for Reiwa as a new era in Japan. On top of that, a number of things have been happening with Power Rangers that I'm going to be discussing in the other video they'll be posting today, which will have to do with Beast Morphers, Lightning Collection, and the show in general. For those that are wondering, for the show in general, the show is supposedly going to come back sometime in September. Originally, people were thinking late August. Now it looks like it's probably going to be September, because we haven't heard anything otherwise, and also typically we know this stuff fairly early. And it seems like because of how they started so late this year, they're also pushing things back later this year. That's what I think it has to do with, because this year they started episodes in March, so most likely, if I had to guess when they're going to bring it back, it's going to be sometime maybe middle of September, or maybe the first or second week of September. We'll have to wait and see. In the States, I'm talking. Anyway, let's move on to why we're here. Kishiryu Sentai Ryusoulger. So episode 20 is called Supreme Artist. Basically what happens is that Kyuran makes a Minosaur, which turns into like this kind of canvas for a painting, and what happens is that it's the second time that they're using a non-monster Minosaur. Instead, they're using a physical object similar to the other one that they used, which was like a treasure chest, except that one had some life to it in the end, but this one doesn't. So the point is that because of it, it actually has infinite potential, because it can create anything using the sketchpad. So like Weisel just needs to paint whatever he wants to come to life, and then as soon as he paints it up, it will be a thing. So he uses this against the Ryusoulgers, and we see also in this episode that Meld basically, you know, notices how everyone's training really well at one point, but he makes note of Toa, because Toa, he feels, is doing really well, but he focuses so much on his speed, and it's going to be a problem for him later on, because if he doesn't focus on his other skills or other abilities, then he'll never improve, because if you only focus on what you know, you'll never get stronger at things that you're not as good with, and he has to be prepared for the event where speed is not the best strategy, of course. So that's the important point that's made up here, and at first he's not really clear on how to do that, but it is an important point. What we do also end up seeing is that the Ryusoulgers end up having to, deal with this Minosaur problem. At first, a lot of them are captured by Weisel using a cage that brings them to another dimension or something, and everyone's captured except for Kanala, until Kanala is actually captured as well, protecting a girl, which is normal because he always tries to do right by the women in the world, because he wants to marry one of them, of course. So that's a thing. And so eventually Toa feels like he almost ready to give up. There's also this boy that wants to be this great artist, but he also struggles with finding, he also wants to connect with his brother, I believe. You know, it's supposed to be something that's very similar to, you know, they're trying to connect that brother situation to Toa and Bamba, because again, they have that kind of relationship. We do end up seeing as well that Guy Sork returns in episode 20, and he ends up giving Toa some information, which basically is information regarding his father. Not his father, sorry, their master, that's right. Their master, regarding the lesson that they were told by their master about learning new skills and all that, and how to improve your skills. That same bit of information was given, and it's also mentioned to him that Guy Sorg is someone that Bamba knows, and he's surprised that Bamba didn't tell him about him. So that was something, but eventually he disappears. Toa then has to deal with the Minosaur, and what happens is that eventually he ends up getting captured, and he manages to learn new skills to free the other Ryusoulgers from their captive position, and they eventually escape. They then end up forming Kishiryu Neptune, and also Kishiryu Five Knights form. So we see that, and they manage to defeat the Minosaur, which actually ends up being a gigantic Weisel, because they end up actually, because Weisel, being someone that's so about himself, he ends up making a giant version of himself so he can still live, but so that he has this giant version that can be used to attack the Ryusoulgers, and so he ends up going up against them. They manage to battle against the Minosaur and win, and then what we end up seeing is that Bamba and Toa end up discussing things about how, Toa met this guy who apparently Bamba knows, who's Guy Sorg, and about how he knows certain things that their master knew, and like, who is this guy, and it leads to this suspicion and questioning of like, who could this be, you know what I mean? And for who it is, we still don't know what that really means, other than what we can assume based off of prior knowledge from the Super Sentai Strongest Battle, what it might mean, regarding the possibility that it might be their master, or it may be that their master was defeated by him. We don't know for sure, though. We'll have to wait and see, though, and I will be very interested to find out when we know that information, but it's not something that we have an exact idea as to when that will be found out regarding who's underneath the helmet of Guy Sorg right now. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, as far as 21 goes, 21's called Light and Dark Kishiryu, and this episode is interesting because it starts off with us seeing that, Asuna's master, Master Pink, is actually alive somehow, and we end up also seeing that, Kishiryu Neptune, not Kishiryu Neptune, but Moza Rex ends up talking to Kanalo about how certain people that are alive are dying, and people that are dead are coming back to life in exchange, and how this is a problem. And what we end up seeing is that that's exactly what's happening with why she's alive suddenly. It's like she should be dead, and the thing is that she is technically dead, but she's somehow alive at the same time. And what happens is that they're really happy to see each other, Pink and Master Pink and Asuna, but at the same time, it is a very unusual thing. Eventually, she is brought into the base, and Melt and Ko are very happy to see her. We also end up seeing that she apparently recognizes Yui's father, but apparently it's not the same person, even though they look the same, and it's probably the exact same actor, it's just a different outfit. He basically, and we know this because of what happens at the end of the episode. So this person that they say is Seto, and he's a character that we'll learn about later on, but he's someone that Master Pink knows of, and it seems to be important, and it's someone that we've actually seen already. Like, I believe this character was introduced in like the 4th or the 3rd episode, maybe even sooner if I'm not mistaken. It might have been like the 1st or 2nd episode, actually. It was a while ago now, but this character was one that we saw briefly, but we didn't know whether or not they saw this character or not, even though he was there in that like 1st or 2nd episode. So that is something to note. I believe it was the 1st episode, yeah. So what ends up happening is that at the same time, there is this point where Kanalo ends up dealing with this Dino Knight who appears, and this Dino Knight is one that they've never seen before, and it's one that came from space, and it is the Shadow Raptor. And the Shadow Raptor goes up against him, and he does manage to defeat him and claim the Ryusoul, and so he gains that Ryusoul, which gives him a very cool ability when he uses it, which we end up seeing in this episode a bunch. We also see that not only are good characters back, but also bad ones are. Tank Joe actually returns, and that's an interesting thing to see. And so what happens is that Tank Joe goes up against Toa and Bamba again, which they don't do necessarily that much better than they did before, but it's definitely an interesting fight. However, now he has this special gas that he can use that can actually potentially, if ignited, could actually cause the entire area to explode and be destroyed. And so they have to be very cautious of the gas that he has. And so what happens is that they have to be careful with it. At the same time, we end up seeing that eventually Kanalo does appear, and he ends up using this new Ryusoul. And what we end up seeing is that he gains like new armor attachments, very similar to how there's like the Biri Biri mode and the Mara Mara mode. But in this case, it just has the Shadow Raptor's head on one side, and the other side has like the tail or the back end of the Shadow Raptor on the other side of his armor. So it's interesting in that way because, again, it's not like the armor where it's like an arm of armor. It's like the whole it's a similar thing to what the Mara Mara and the Biri Biri have, except it has like dinosaurs on it, which is interesting and important. I believe that those armors do have it as well, I want to say, but it is interesting to note that does allow for interesting stories. So we end up seeing that he uses this to actually use the Shadow Raptor's ability, which allows him to actually send things away and make them disappear. And so he uses this ability to make all the gas in the area be sucked up and sent into a void of space, and this is done to prevent any explosions that could destroy people in the nearby areas. So that's something to note. Eventually they do manage to deal with Tank Joe, and he eventually does decide to grow big. At that point, what happens is we end up seeing Kishiryu 5 Knights being used, and also we end up seeing Kishiryu Neptune Shadow Raptor formation, which is the combination that combines Neptune with Shadow Raptor, and we end up seeing him take advantage of those same abilities that he had in his regular form, but in this case in the mecha form, to actually go up against Tank Joe, and they do manage to battle against him and beat him in battle, which is very cool to see. Eventually, what does end up happening is that after they defeat him, we end up seeing that the Ryusoulgers end up meeting Shadow Raptor, and we learn of that he is from space, and he represents darkness, and we eventually see that what comes from space is not only darkness but light, and we see the Shine Raptor. Shine Raptor is his counterpart. They are a pair. So Shine Raptor and Shadow Raptor are finally introduced. This is what's supposed to happen for August. Those are the two Dino Knights are supposed to be introduced this month. Next month is supposed to have it's supposed to have another set of 2, which we'll see as well, and that will be very interesting, and a lot of people are very excited for that set of 2, but we are not there yet. We will be there next month, which I'm very excited for those 2. But yeah, very interesting, and it's a different set because they aren't like counterparts to each other. That one's more of, they have their own functionality. It's very similar to another combination from Gao Ranger, which when we get to it, I'll mention what I'm referring to. I mean, I can say it. It's very similar to Gao Modillo and Gao Rhino from Gao Ranger, but I'm not going to say what it is in case anyone doesn't want to be spoiled by what's to come. Just because they're 2 different things that are completely different from each other, but they somehow work together, so that's the reason why I say it's similar. Anyway, what we do end up seeing is that they both are shown, light and darkness, and with the light they manage to repair the damages made by Tank Joe. At the same time, we end up seeing this character, Seto, who appears, and he ends up and he's this character that we saw in the first episode that had like this whole robe and cloak over his face so you couldn't see his face. He finally reveals himself. He has the exact same appearance, as Yui's father, and apparently he lives between light and darkness. So he's an interesting character that we will likely learn a lot more about. Again, he was introduced in the first episode, and originally I think there was this thought that he may be the Bamba and Toa's master, but he's not, obviously. But there is a good chance that Gaisorg may be their master, and maybe he's like disguised as him or something. We'll have to wait and see. As far as the preview goes for episode 22, 22 does show that Tank I believe is still around, and we also end up seeing that now that they have the Shine Raptor, they are going to take the Shine Raptor and use it along with the Shadow Raptor, because the two of them do have that form as well. It's not just one and one. They do have a Shine Raptor form for Kishiryu Neptune, and obviously a Shadow Raptor form for Kishiryu Neptune. There's also ones for Kishiryu, like the regular Kishiryu. So we will obviously have to wait and see that. But next episode, I believe, is supposed to be the introduction of the Kishiryu Cosmo Raptor formation, which is one where they take Kishiryu, and I forget how it works exactly, but it's like Kishiryu with Kishiryu combines with with Shadow Raptor and Shine Raptor to create it. And if you're wondering how that works, it's basically just taking the two together and making one. I believe that's right. It's either that or it's going to be the Shine Raptor formation for Kishiryu Knight. For the basic Kishiryu formation. We'll have to wait and see though. I believe that's right though. We'll wait on that. Otherwise, that's about it for me. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you guys think. Did you guys enjoy these episodes? Which do you like better? Are you looking forward to seeing the Cosmo formation, which is the combination of the two? And are you looking forward to the next couple of mechas that we'll be getting? And who do you think Gaisorg will be in the end? Leave your comments below. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.